Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. And Chet, the Eagles got a second straight beatdown at the hands of the Cowboys on Sunday night. Concerned about that? We'll certainly talk about it. The Flyers have won 4 of their last 5. The Sixers rolled through some teams they should have beaten. They're 15-7, just over the quarter season mark. So we'll talk some about that. And we're going to talk some Pennsylvania high school hoops from back in the day. We have plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Yeah, we do, Bill. The Flyers and Sixers continue to play well, surprisingly, in the case of the orange and black. The Eagles, they're sparking a lot of panic among fans. They got destroyed, as you indicated, the last couple of games against maybe the 2 best teams in the NFC. Forgive me, Birds fans.
Well, we're certainly going to talk about that because you, my friend, are going to be surprised at the angle I'm going to take on this. So I can't wait to talk about it. We have great guests to talk about it with tonight, with Paul Domowitch from the 33rd team, making a return visit to Philly Pressbox Radio. And first-timer Bradley Huebner.
You got it.
I got that right. The author of Titles for Our Town will be joining us in the second half. How can you go wrong talking Birds with Damo and high school hoops with Brad?
You can't, Bill. Yeah, we got a couple of good ones tonight. People are really going to enjoy meeting Brad Huebner. I think his book sounds terrific. And Damo always has lots of great insight for everyone. So let's get it going.
Let's get to it. Let's welcome Paul Domowitch back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Damo, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you.
Hey, Paul. Well, we have to talk about it. 2 straight beatdowns suffered by the Eagles over one stretch over the last 2 games. The Birds defense gave up 9 touchdowns and a field goal over the span of 10 possessions by the 49ers and Cowboys. That's almost hard to believe. What has happened to this defense?
Well, I mean, it's been coming. It's not it hasn't been good for a while now. They've got the worst third down defense in the league. They're 30th in red zone defense. And it's just, I mean, they've got so many holes right now. I mean, and the one thing you could rely on in the past has been their pass rush, and even that is not getting there right now. So yeah, they got some problems.
Now, Paul, as you get through the gauntlet, as they were calling it here, and this has been a brutal part of the schedule, facing Mahomes, Allen, Purdy, and Prescott, that's a tough road. But then the defense is out there. What was it? 92 plays one week. I think it was 72 another, 84 another. Is it possible at this time of the season to have good legs and be able to tackle well and be able to rush the passer? All goes back to not getting off the field on third down, in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of it. I mean, you look at their numbers early in the season, time of possession. They're among the league leaders. I think they were second behind Cleveland. And then everything changed about 5-6 games ago, and now they can't. They haven't been able to get off the field. Their lack of depth at edge rusher is putting a lot of pressure on Sweat and Reddick because they're playing so much. You got a rookie in the middle who's it's about right now that they usually hit the rookie wall. So Jalen Carter's even though he had that fumble recovery for a touchdown this week, he still is disappearing at times. A lot of it has to do with the fact that that fatigue is just catching up with them. And you can go right through that defense, guys, with the problems they have. Their corners are starting to show age. They've got no linebackers, and the communication on the back end is horrible. It's just a mess right now.
Well, you mentioned the linebackers and the secondary. Howie Roseman getting some criticism from the fans for maybe not doing enough to bolster that, either in the offseason or approaching the trade deadline. I know they signed Shaq Leonard last week, but we don't know what we're going to get from him. Does Howie deserve some of the blame here for not doing enough to shore things up?
Well, I mean, I think he did everything, he could. You could question some of the decisions as more than him not trying to fix things. He brought back Bradbury when nobody thought he was going to be coming back. They kept hung on to Slay, but both of them are having awful years. I mean, they're in their 30s now. Sometimes it's just a matter of going from one year to the next, and suddenly you're a step slower and you're showing it, and they are. I think he tried to milk one more year out of this group. I mean, he lost 6 starters on defense, but he tried to keep who he could. Thought this team was good enough offensively that they could make another Super Bowl run this year, and then he would start rebuilding with younger, cheaper players around a quarterback who's going to be making $50 million a year.
Well, Paul, I have a little different take on this Cowboys game, I think, than most of the fans that are wanting to fire everybody and all that. If you hold on to the football on 3 different scoring drives and you put points on the board, you keep the defense off the field, maybe it's not – the numbers for defense are what they are. You shouted them out. But maybe it's not as bad, and maybe they're in that game all the way to the end if they had 3 touchdowns or 17 points or wherever it figures out. You can't fumble the ball on offense.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you, Bill. 3 takeaways in their territory. I mean, all were potentially scoring opportunities. I mean, I don't think they were a 20-point better team. It's plus, I mean, the way I looked at this game even before the way it turned out was Eagles won at home. They haven't swept the Cowboys since 2011. I didn't expect them to do it this year. I thought the game would be closer. It wasn't, mainly because of those turnovers and the fact that they didn't score an offensive touchdown, and their defense is just struggling right now really badly. I mean, Dak Prescott was able to extend plays, get away from that rush. There's a lot of things going wrong right now, but yeah, I mean, I don't see this game as kind of suggesting that the Cowboys are unbeatable or anything.
Well, not only was Jalen Hurts outplayed by Dak Prescott the other night, over the last few weeks, I think he's been outplayed by Tommy DeVito and, heck, Joe Flacco. Maybe that's stretching it. But, I mean, he was an MVP candidate legitimately 2 weeks ago. And now with these 2 losses, he has fallen to, I guess, 4th or 5th in the MVP race. What's going on with the quarterback?
Well, I think it's more a question of what's going on with the offense. I don't think Jalen's playing all that badly. I mean, he made some good throws on Sunday. He didn't have any touchdown passes, but right now teams are figuring out how to deal with their wide receivers. He only targeted 3 people on Sunday. That's just mind-boggling. I mean, he targeted AJ Brown 13 times. Devontae Smith 10 times, and Dallas Goedert 4 times. No one else. The only other guy that got targeted was by Oz by the punter on a fake punt. So
yeah,
that's not. You guys. It's always been spread the ball around. That's you look at good offenses. You even go back to last year. That's what this team did, and right now that doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, last year, this team was built to get a lead and run away from a team and then let their pass rush just tee off on quarterbacks. That hasn't happened this year. Last year they had the best first half point differential in the league. Over the last 6 games, guys, their point differential in the first half is like -50. I mean, they're playing from behind now, and that's not what this team is built to do, especially with the way the defense is struggling right now. When they try to rush the passer, as we saw against the Cowboys were able to run the ball, which really caused some problems for them. So, I thought I had a lot of hopes for this offense with Brian Johnson. Still do. I mean, I think he's a smart guy. But right now, when you look at this offense and the scheme and the way and the play designs and the routes they're running compared to something like San Francisco or what's going on in Baltimore, it's just night and day. I mean, 2 weeks ago against San Francisco, they gave Jalen tons and tons of time, and he couldn't find anybody. Now, a lot of that was they weren't getting open. A lot of it is he's missing some people. Sunday they didn't use they didn't target their running backs at all. Their running backs have been, it's kind of a mixed bag this year with their running backs in the passing game because they've caught a lot of passes, not for, but they're not doing much with it. I mean, they're both averaging like Gainwell and DeAndre Swift are both averaging under 6 yards a catch. Swift was averaging 8 last year with Detroit. Kenny Gainwell averaged like 7.5 last year with the Eagles. So, I don't know. It's just everything seems to be out of sync right now. They need to run the ball more consistently and more often. Their running backs are averaging over the last 6 games, I want to say 7 carries a game, or 7 carries in the first half. I'm sorry, as opposed to like 11 or 12 before that. So they just need to get back in sync. I think the offense will be fine. My concern going forward is I just don't think this defense is good enough to get to the Super Bowl. It's you can't allow teams to convert 50% of their third downs and expect to beat good teams. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I think the thing that is frustrating to me watching them, and I go back to the Dolphins game, where they were coming off the loss to the Jets, and they come out in the Dolphins game and they just ran the ball. Best game they played all year.
Yeah.
They don't seem to want to run the ball to second half, even when they were winning games, pretty decently. They don't want to run the ball till the second half. I don't understand that philosophy. I think that frustrates me watching them, because now, as you mentioned, now you're behind at halftime. Now you can't run the ball a lot in the second half because you can't catch up.
Yeah. Teams, I knew going into this season, I mean, teams looked at this offense. They were going to study it. Defensive coordinators that knew their teams were going to be playing these guys. They were going to try to find ways to stop this offense. And I think the one they kind of all zeroed in on was we got to stop Jalen from running. They kind of have done that. With a little help from a bone bruise to his knee, which slowed him down. But I think he's kind of healthy now. Had some running success last week, but there's still that's the main focus of defenses is stopping his running. And the problem is, with this offensive line, it shouldn't matter. You would think, whether you got a statue back there or whether you've got Jalen, they should be able to just hand it to Swift and Gainwell, and these guys should be able to open a hole for them. But they're not running it enough to find out if that can happen. And I don't understand why. We've seen this happen before with other coaches. They just give up on the run if it struggles early. And I understand this is a passing league and they've got 2, all pro wide receivers. So you want to use them as much as possible. But, I think they need to kind of, they need to adjust here with whether it's with the routes of the people that they're using, because I mean we're seeing the last couple of weeks where Brown and Smith have just been taken out, and what we saw from the Cowboys, I think, and what we're going to see copied by the teams going forward here is they said we're going to play these guys physical. I mean, we're just going to knock them around. We're going to try and strip the ball from them, which they did. They both Brown and Smith had fumbles, which is uncharacteristic of them. Jalen had a fumble. I mean, they just said, we're going to make them not want to get hit. And I'm not suggesting these guys are wimps, but when that happens, sometimes it affects the way you play. And I think it kind of did on Sunday.
So a lot of the Eagles fans with rose-colored glasses just think, well, they'll win the Final Four and everything's going to be fine. They'll, get the top seed or at least the number one seed or winning the division. They've not had a whole lot of success out in Seattle over the years. How big is this game Monday night? Not just because of the standings, but just, to get them back on the right path. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important, Chet. They need a big win right now. I mean, Seattle's not a very good team right now. They've lost 4 in a row, 5 of their last 6. They can be beaten. I don't know if Geno Smith's going to play or not. He missed last week with the groin injury. But they're certainly, I mean, the Eagles are a better team than Seattle. Going on the road certainly is going to give Seattle a little bit of an advantage, especially there. I mean, that whole 12th man thing. But this is a game the Eagles should win. They're still in the driver's seat as far as the division's concerned. Yeah. I think San Francisco's you look at their schedule. The only tough game they've got is Baltimore. My guess is San Francisco ends up with the number 1 seed in the NFC going into the playoffs, but the Eagles certainly should. They still are capable, if they beat Seattle on Monday night and play well against the Giants in Arizona, of winning the NFC East and being the 2nd seed and beating out the Cowboys. So, but we'll see. I mean, they've got to play better than they did last week. That's for sure.
Hey, Paul, do you ever remember being through a schedule where you had these teams, Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, and Dallas, all upper echelon teams, 4 games in 20 days? That's not easy to do, and it goes back to that tired legs thing. That extra day off this week is huge. I mean, every day off is huge, and the fact they don't have to come back on a short week the next week, they play again Monday night, can only help them. Have you ever seen a schedule like that with 4 games like that in 20 days?
Well, I've seen some. Yeah, I mean, I've been around long enough, Bill, that I've seen some weird schedules. I've seen them have to play 3 road games in a row, not all like close by. Back when they were doing the schedule manually, and the league was, some teams would often kind of get screwed, and a lot of times it was them. So yeah, I mean, but we knew going into the season, this is the way it was going to be. That they needed to build momentum early, pack as many wins as they could early on, and then try to survive this 5-game murderers row with maybe winning 3 out of 5, and they'd be okay. And that's still the case record-wise. It's just, again, I get back to the defense. I mean, I just don't know that that's reversible. It almost looks like, I'm sure Sean Desai is racking his brains right now trying to figure out how can I stop the bleeding here, and I don't know if he has an answer.
Paul, one final quick question from me. Who do you like in the Cowboys-Bills game in Buffalo this Sunday?
I like Buffalo. I think their win last week has given them some momentum. The whole everything that went on with the controversy with Sean McDermott, the series that kind of crucified him, and the players rallied around him, and Josh Allen rallied around him. I think we're going to see some of Buffalo's best football going forward. I don't know that they're going to. I still, in the AFC, I still like Baltimore right now, but I mean, I think the Bills are certainly capable, even with all the losses on defense that they've suffered, are still capable of making a deep playoff run.
Paul, one final question for me as well. I'm probably one of those that have those rose-colored glasses on that Chet was talking about, but I don't see any reason that they can't win the final 4 games. But I'm going to go where no man in Philadelphia is supposed to go. It seems like in October, we saw the very best of Philly fans when they were rooting on the Phillies. This week, in losing 2 games, we are seeing the worst of the Philly fans because they want to fire everybody from Roseman to us. They've lost 2 games. They're 10-3. They're in great shape. They're ugly losses, but they're 10-3.
Yeah. I mean, there were people, I was getting tweets and emails like second, third week of the season, people wanting to fire Brian Johnson. I mean, this town is amazing as far as when anything goes wrong with the Eagles, it's the coordinator's fault. No, it's never the player's fault. Okay. I mean, you can only do so much. I mean, Desai and Brian Johnson have not coached their best games the last couple of weeks. But still, I mean, the players are not executing. In some situations, they're just not good enough defensively for the most part. So yeah, it's I love this town, but it's I always used to ask Andy Reid why he wanted to coach here, keep coaching, and because they just booed him mercilessly. We're never happy with him losing in the NFC Championship game. He said he just loved the passion. And I'll give that town this. It's certainly there's not a more passionate fan base in the NFL than the Eagles.
Well, I know I read Sirianni is a fraud at least 50 times today. At least today. Sirianni's a fraud. Everybody knew this was going to happen. He's a bum. Get rid of him too.
You got to love it.
Well, hey, Paul, before we let you go, let everyone know where they can follow what you have going on and your social media and plus your articles. You write great stuff.
Oh, thanks, guys. I write for the 33rdteam.com website. You can, free of charge. They haven't put up a paywall yet, so you can go to it. I also have a Monday night radio show on WBCB. We do a remote show up at the Great American Pub in Conshohocken every Monday night at 6:00. So,
Jolovitz and Domowitch.
That's right.
Right.
You got it. Paul Jolovitz, my good buddy. So anyway, that's it.
All right. Well, Paul, we appreciate, as always, you coming by. Let's do it again. Wait, let's do it when the Eagles are in the playoffs.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thanks, Domo. See ya.
All right, Chet, winter is here. Gas prices actually are down this week, at least in my neighborhood. It's a chance to save a bit more money with Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance.
Bill, I was driving in Burlington, New Jersey the other day. Gas prices $2.75 and $2.85 a gallon. It was a beautiful thing. But yes, Allstate's pay-as-you-go auto insurance puts you in control. You only pay for the miles you drive with the same full coverage that a traditional policy offers. Pay-per-mile insurance gives customers greater control of their insurance costs. See how much you can save with pay-per-mile insurance by calling your local agent. In Westchester, Pennsylvania, that is Dave Lavoie at Allstate in Westchester. Call Dave at 610-430-0700. Once again, 610-430-0700.
Well, hey, Chet, I know, or I think I know, that tomorrow is a big, big night for you at the Irish Rover Station House. So tell us what's going on.
Yeah, you know what's going on. It's a busy time of year everywhere, and that includes at the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. And hey, if you know someone like me, perhaps, who enjoys visiting the Rover, consider buying them some fantastic merch from the Rover. T-shirts, hoodies, beanies, monograms, zip-ups, etc. They make great gifts for anyone who likes that great bar and restaurant and looking fashionable at the same time. Of course, the Irish Rover has Quizzo Wednesday evenings, Killer Burger Thursdays, dinner specials Thursday through Sunday. And this Thursday evening, you know what's happening. It is indeed the Ugly Sweater Party, the annual Ugly Sweater Bash at the Rover. Prizes for the funniest or ugliest sweater. I will be there. Say hello. Come and get ugly with me. It all happens at the Irish Rover on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. Get all the details on their website, IrishRoverStationHouse.com.
Hey, everybody. It's Willie Nile here, and you're listening to Chet and Bill on Philly Pressbox Radio. You lucky people.
Hey, Chet. PJ's giving you a call.
Yeah, I'm getting ugly. You know it.
Getting
Got
ugly.
my new sweater. Got a new sweater the other day, but I'm going to get it out tomorrow night. You'll see pictures.
Right. And hey, you may have a surprise visitor, I'm being told. One of our listeners, viewers, whatever, that has to come into town for a funeral. and he is telling me he is going to try to go to the Irish Rover, and I told him you were going to be there tomorrow night for the ugly sweater, and he is going to try to look you up and tap you on the shoulder. I'm not going to say who it is just in case he ends up not being able to make it.
All
but
right. I'll look forward to meeting whoever this mystery person is. It starts at 7 p.m., but I won't be there till 7:30. But yeah, I'll be definitely hanging out 7:30 till 9:30 at the very minimum, maybe 10 o'clock.
But Joe Bonder will be looking for you.
Oh,
did I say that?
Looking forward to that.
All right. Hey, Chet, Sixers, they've won 3 in a row against some really bad teams, but they took care of their business. They're going to have their hands full this week, 5 games in 8 days. How many days will Joel take off out of 5 and 8? What do you think?
Oh, my goodness. Who knows? Hey, look, the good news is they are playing well. And the first 4 of this next batch of games that you mentioned are against more not so good teams. The Pistons twice, a home and home tonight and Friday. Speaking of the Pistons, they started the season 2-1. Since then, they've lost 20 games in a row. They are 2-21. Nobody wants to be the team that, gets them back in the winning track. So hopefully
home and home with them, right? Home and home.
Yeah, exactly. Tonight and Friday. Then the Sixers have the Hornets and the Bulls, a couple of more bad teams, before they visit the West-leading T-Wolves next Wednesday. But yeah, they're playing well. Everybody is staying reasonably healthy. You do need a night off once in a while, Joel Embiid playing like he wants another MVP trophy. And although they're in 4th place in the East right now, they are only 2 games behind the conference-leading Boston Celtics. So still a long way to go, but looking pretty good overall, I would say.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say to you. I believe they're 15-7. They're about just past the quarter season mark. 15-7 doesn't actually sound really great, except like you said, they're only 2 games back. So they're in a good position. And the other thing. How about the other night against the Wizards when they played all 15 guys and all 15 guys scored points? I bet you 12 guys never saw the court with that other guy that was coaching.
Oh, yeah, I know. That was a beautiful thing. And Embiid got his 34 and 10 or whatever it was in like 29 minutes. He's been doing that a lot, which is good, getting him some rest. So I love these blowout wins because it gets the big guy some needed rest.
Now that's the load management I want to see.
Yeah.
Come play the game, get a lead, sitting down. No problem with that. Sitting there in street clothes, that's where the problem comes. Don't sit, Joel. Keep rolling.
I know how you feel, Bill.
I think you do. So does everybody else probably. Let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week. Gang has all the bases covered. Hey, the Eagles getting knocked around a little bit doesn't stop what's going on at the Edge of Philly Sports.
I have no graphic for you tonight, Bill, so just keep going.
I am rolling, man. I know how to do this, believe it or not. You can also catch all the action on www.eopsports.com as well as Edge of Philly Sports on their YouTube channel. You can find our show on the Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel. Check us out. Hit the help buttons. Hit the subscribe, follow, like, all those buttons that make people want to come see Chet in his ugly sweater. Share it with your family and friends.
And give us a little holiday love. Subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We want to beef that up a little bit more. Hey, I didn't have a graphic for the EOP lineup this week. Our head guy was a little under the weather earlier in the week, so he didn't do the graphic like that. But I do have this little graphic I can put up.
Yes.
My wife is celebrating a birthday today, and it's a milestone birthday. I'm not going to tell you which one, but yeah, it's her birthday. We're going to celebrate together Friday night. So happy birthday, Linda.
And it's funny you threw that up there, and I didn't know you were going to throw that up there because this was exactly where in my notes I said, say happy birthday to Linda. So happy birthday, Linda, from me as well, and everyone else here at Philly Pressbox Radio.
Yeah, for people who don't know, we don't go over the, line by line script for the show. We just do a general thing, and then you throw some stuff in, and I throw some stuff in, and we happen to throw the happy birthday, Linda thing right in the same spot right there. Happy birthday, Linda, it says for me. So I remembered. She's not going to watch this, but I'll tell her that we did it.
Well, yeah, she can just tell her Bill said happy birthday.
Yes.
All right. Chet, I'm telling you, it intrigues me, this book by Brad Huebner, Titles for Our Town. talking some old school Pennsylvania high school basketball players and teams, I believe. Again, I have not heard your interview. You got to sit down with Brad just last night. I'm excited to hear about this. I think it's a fantastic topic. Tell us about it.
Yeah, the book focuses pretty much on a few mini dynasties by schools in a few of the state's small towns in the 1950s and early 60s. Very interesting. And Dick Allen, the Phillies great and the White Sox slugger, is mentioned kind of prominently because he and his brothers were all extremely talented basketball players out in beautiful Wampum before they fully moved into baseball. So, yeah, you'll get to hear that part of it. Really enjoyed talking with Brad. And let's see if this works. Here is our chat. I've been co-hosting Philly Pressbox Radio for 9.5 years, but this is the very first time for this topic on our show. And it is an interesting one, Pennsylvania's golden age of high school basketball. To cover that, I'm going to bring in a guy who literally wrote the book. It is Bradley Huebner. Brad, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great being on here.
Well, Brad, let's talk about this. I know you played a little hoops. You're a writer. You're an English teacher, a sports historian. But what exactly inspired you to write a book about Pennsylvania's high school basketball of an era mostly before you were born?
Well, I grew up between Allentown and Bethlehem near Lehigh University. And, not many teams from our area make the state championships. In 79 and 80, Allen High made it back-to-back years. They lost in the state final both years, but it was so exciting, got me hooked on basketball for life. I just thought, this is how it's going to be. Every couple of years, someone's going to go, and then nobody would go unless it was a Catholic school from our area. And then I heard about this team called Fountain Hill from 1955, 56, and 57 over in Bethlehem. They made the state finals 3 years in a row, and I said, well, wait a minute. You're going to tell me that nobody else has done that? No public school in our area has done that? Why aren't people talking about them? Why don't people know about them? And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to look into this. There were two superstars that they had for all 3 years. They started as sophomores and were great again as seniors. I said, I'm going to find these guys, interview them, and I'm going to write a book about them. And, I thought they deserve to get some attention. But then I started researching, and I said, you know what? In 55, they played Wampum in the state finals, and Wampum is this mythical Hoosier-style team, small school in the state, some people said, and they went in 55 and were undefeated and won the state title. Well, Fountain Hill went the next 2 years again and won it both years. So I said, well, I'll do one of these teams on each side of the state, one near Pittsburgh, one near Allentown. Well, then I found out Kutztown went 3 times in the decade, and I said, I can't exclude them. So it sort of mushroomed into this much bigger book than I anticipated, but I learned so much. It was an amazing process.
I should mention the book is called Titles for Our Town, How Tiny Pennsylvania Communities Produced Basketball Dynasties and Shaped Basketball During the Golden Age. So there it is. And you mentioned Wampum. And, when I think of Wampum, I think of former Phillies and White Sox slugger Dick Allen. But he was actually part of that Wampum basketball squad in, I guess, 59 and 60. He made All-State. So Dick Allen, or Richie Allen, as some Phillies fans knew him in the mid-60s, was a pretty darn good basketball player.
Great basketball player. And in that picture there, it's Dick Allen and his brother, Ron Allen. And their older brother, Hank Allen, also played. So they had the 3 brothers, and then their 2 half-brothers played in the late 40s into the early 50s. Great athletes. They said Dick Allen, there was a sign in town, and they said it must have been like 12 feet in the air. They said he would go up and touch the top of it. He was not a tall man, but was trying to get a hold of Dick. It was not an easy thing to do. I was trying to interview him, and then he passed. I wasn't able to interview him, but I did get his younger brother, Ronnie, and I've interviewed Ron many times. Great guy. Ron played at Youngstown State, scored 1,000 points in college, and Ron's career was pretty amazing. He went into the major leagues. He got 1 major league hit. Late in the game, Joe Torre was the first baseman, and he got ejected. So Ron had to go in and play first base for him. So Ron gets an at-bat, hits a home run. It's his only hit in Major League Baseball, but it was one that counted. But just amazing people. And the guy that I didn't know about was Don Hennon. He was the star of the 55 team, and his dad was the coach. And Don Hennon went to Pitt became a first-team All-American on the same team with Wilt Chamberlain and Oscar Robertson. And here's this 5'9" white guy with a barrel chest. You know, he doesn't look like these other super athletes, but he was a great player. His dad taught him how to play the game right. And the Russian national team would copy their practice techniques, which I thought was amazing as well. There's a Life magazine story. Life magazine was going to go to Farrell High School, which is near Pittsburgh, and they were going to do a big feature on them. They were getting close to their 100th straight win at home. And then they got beat by Altoona just before they got there. So Life magazine said, well, we got to do something else. They went to Wampum and they did a pictorial. They got all these great pictures of their crazy techniques. They'd get glasses and they'd poke out the lenses and block out the bottom. So when you dribbled, you couldn't see it. They had weighted vests. They wore like buckled shoes, like boots at practice, all these things so that when you took these encumbrances off, the game was much easier. And they got some of that from Ty Cobb, the baseball hero, because he did that. And they said, well, if it worked for him, it can work for us. And those are the kinds of, and then the coach, L. Butler Hennon, he marketed those techniques and sold a lot of that stuff. And in my research, that's the amazing thing, is how many guys from Pennsylvania were going down to North Carolina State, Duke, Maryland. That's why it's one of the reasons it's the golden age, because Pennsylvania had blue chippers everywhere you looked. Kutztown in 51 won the state title. Then in 52, they had a rematch with Avalon, and Avalon had these two studs that both went to Duke. Well, one of them ended up transferring out, but the other one was Duke's player of the decade in the 50s. And this is out right near Pittsburgh as well. So Pennsylvania was a great, great basketball state, not just Pittsburgh and Philly, but all over the state.
Do you think we'll ever see another golden age of high school basketball, or will that be never replicated in the modern era?
That's the $1 million question. We still send guys to colleges and pros from the inner cities. We've always done that. We'll always do that. But what's lost here, and that's why the book was so important, is if you're a small town public school team, you have almost no chance of making that dream run to the state championship where the whole town gets behind you and everybody's on board and everybody's at the game, and you're basically becoming eternal through your exploits on the hardwood. I don't think we'll ever see it, because now it's all charter school, Catholic school, open boundary city school that can draw from anywhere. I saw something the other day, and I don't know that this is accurate, but something was posted that said St. Joe's Prep had well over 100 zip codes represented in their school.
Wow.
Because they can pull from multiple states, and they do, and stuff like that. So they're winning every football title. In basketball, Newman Goretti almost always wins it. It's the same schools over and over, and therefore nobody's going to the games. So that ruins the atmosphere, which is what you had in the 50s and 60s. The whole town was there. If they had smaller gyms, so it was easier to sell out, but the line went around the block during the JV game if you wanted to see the varsity game, and they were all sold out.
The names I'm going to mention aren't from these small town schools, but man, what a list of great players from Pennsylvania. Wilt Chamberlain, Paul Arizin, Tom Gola, Ray Chink Scott, Earl Monroe, Maurice Lucas, Guy Rogers, Jeff Petrie, Wally Jones, and more recently, Rasheed Wallace, Rip Hamilton, Kyle Lowry, and Kobe Bryant. And that's just a partial list. A lot of great players from the Keystone State.
Well, and that's why I said Philly and Pittsburgh will always have great players. Philadelphia it's like a state unto itself. So many great players, so many great coaches, so much history. And what I found, Chamberlain in 55, they went out to Farrell, and Farrell was this big name on the rise. They would end up winning 7 state titles. And Chamberlain played them, and Farrell beat them by 1. And I talked to the guy who made the winning foul shots to win the game. The one headline said, Farrell wins in a home decision or something like that, because they thought the refs really hurt Overbrook. But then in the late 50s, Overbrook had those other guys, Wally Jones, Walt Hazard. They had Wayne the Cane Hightower, who would go to Kansas and play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And they were all on the same team. They had basically 4 pros on their team, and they ended up playing Dick Allen and Wampum in the Johnstown tournament. And that's my next book. The Johnstown tournament would invite 4 teams every December. and they'd go out, and it would be 4 teams. They could be DeMatha from DC. They could be a team from New York, New Jersey, wherever. And you got to see the best games basically in the East. And Dick Allen went against Overbrook and all those names I just read, and Wampum could not compete with that. Overbrook was really, really good, as you well know. So the book I'm writing now about the Johnstown tournament, I'm actually getting into more of the Philadelphia guys with that as well, because you have Simon Gratz, you have Roman Catholic, you have Ben Franklin, you have Dobbins Tech when they had Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. So the city of Philadelphia always has been, always will be loaded with talent. And it's such a great basketball place.
2 final quick questions for you, Brad. In doing the research for the book, was there anything in particular that surprised you greatly or blew your mind?
All the time, stuff was always, the more people I met, that was one of the hardest parts about writing the book. I would learn this and I'd be writing this chapter about this. And in researching that chapter, I'd find something else that would sort of shoot off. And I'm like, I can't not include that. That's so good. So that's why I say the book's about 3 dynasties, but it kind of veers off into other areas. The one thing I thought was amazing, Dick Allen from Wampum from that era, he was the Rookie of the Year his first year in baseball. Yeah. And then the year before that or after that, I'd have to go back and check. There was a guy named Gary Peters, who was the Rookie of the Year and Pitcher of the Year for the Chicago White Sox. Well, he was playing out at Mercer High basketball. And here's this guy that ends up, he went through into the pros as a hitter, and they were short on pitchers, and they knew he had a good arm. They said, listen, why don't you just go in and pitch? He never went back to just hitting and ended up winning 19 games the one year. And here's a guy, when he was in high school, just to kind of hang out with his dad, he joined his dad's semi-pro baseball team because his high school team didn't have baseball. So here he was playing in this great basketball program at Mercer High, no baseball to speak of, goes to play with his dad, ends up becoming the American League Rookie of the Year. So 2 guys from that little town, and stuff like that happened all the time.
Last thing, when anyone talks about basketball-themed movies, of course, they always mention Hoosiers. It's always at the top of most people's lists. Was that, and it was inspired by a true story, which some people may not know. I'm guessing you're a fan of Hoosiers?
Oh, greatest movie ever made. Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I actually talked to Angelo Pizzo, who wrote the movie, and interviewed him for the book. He's in there as well. I talked to Bobby Plump, who was the guy on the actual Milan team that made the game-winning shot that gave them the state championship.
Yeah.
And I tried to get Oscar Robertson, was not successful with that. But he won it the next 2 years in Indiana at Crispus Attucks. But in Ohio, it was Jerry Lucas in the mid-50s and his Middletown, Ohio team. He was 76-0 his 3 years of high school. And it was either in the state final or the state semifinal. They finally got beat his senior year. He was about to win 3 straight state titles, and they lost. But Jerry was great. He sent me a ton of pictures of him and Oscar and all this stuff when they became pro teammates. So I try not to over mention Hoosiers, because I know everybody that writes a book about a small town team now, they either call it Pennsylvania's Hoosiers, the Hoosiers of baseball, if it's a baseball team. But what most people don't know is the movie, the play, that championship season won the Pulitzer Prize. It was written by a guy from Scranton about the Farrell High School 1952 champs. And then John Updike's book collection, the Rabbit series, which he wrote about basketball in the Kutztown area and Shillington when he was a boy, ended up winning the Pulitzer Prize for that. So you had basketball in Pennsylvania in this era really contributed to so much of popular culture people don't even know. In fact, Cameron Indoor Arena at Duke, the guy it's named after was from Irwin High School out near Pittsburgh, ended up going down to Duke to coach football and basketball, became the AD, and sketched out on a matchbook his plans for the arena. Now it's one of the most famous basketball arenas in college basketball with his name on it.
Folks, the book is called Titles for Our Town. And look, it's for basketball fans of all ages. Brad, finally, where can people find this book? And do you have a website or social media that you want to promote?
Yeah, you can go on to Amazon.com and type in titles for our town. That's one place. We just got it loaded on Barnes & Noble's site today, so you can get it there. We're trying to get it out into the Barnes & Nobles. That's our next thing. And then I have several websites. One of them, author Bradley A. Huebner. Another one's called sportsrat.com, where I have a lot of my past articles. But one of the other guys I think that blew my mind, and you're talking about movies, Sonny Vaccaro, was from Pittsburgh, and the movie Air that just came out about how he signed Michael Jordan for the Nike. Sonny has been a big supporter of me through this book and has helped me get in touch with people. So he's another guy. There's a Pennsylvania guy who totally changed the sneaker industry. So just one great story after another from all these great people.
Brad, this was a blast. Good luck with the book, and happy holidays.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on here. It was a great time.
Hey, Chet, I think I'm going to add that to my Christmas list.
Yeah, sounds like a good read. And what a great guy, too. Just so nice and very knowledgeable, obviously, about Pennsylvania's high school hoops history.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I want to see that or read that. It looks really good, and I think the thing about it too is, and Brad is so passionate. I think he can build off that. He can write a whole lot more books. I think because there's so much to write about, and but man, he's got a great topic to get it started.
Yeah, as you heard, he's already working on his next one, which he hopes to have out next fall. So. He's a busy guy, but he loves sports. He loves basketball. He's a sports historian. So keep those books coming, Brad.
Absolutely. Brad, thanks for joining us as well. Hey, Chet, what's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia? Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Well, Bill, Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up a terrific catering business for more than 30 years now. Known best for their tailgate parties, Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events and parties, you name it. Now there's just one Eagles home tailgate party left this season. That's going to be the Birds' home finale, New Year's Eve day outside live casino. Yeah, they're not doing the Christmas Day thing against the Giants. So New Year's Eve day, the Birds taking on the Cardinals later that day. Order your tickets for that via phillytailgates.com. Check the site, and if you have any questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. And as you know, Cav also works with Vince at Philly Sports Trips, and they're the guys who do all the Eagles road games and much, much more. They have flyers and union trips and Philly spring training excursions. Also, check out those trips and more. All the other ones through those great guys at phillysportstrips.com.
There you go. A couple comments on the interview. Awesome. From Joe. And another one from Joe. Yep. Great topic. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff from Brad. All right, Chet. Prediction time. Oof.
Yes.
Each week, you and Boop, Bob the Trone Jr., Boop to his friends, and I pick the winners or losers of the NFC East games, and usually we add in one or two as we go. And but first, how did we do last week? What's the current standings for Week 14? And I don't care, and I bet Boop doesn't care that we lost the Cowboys game because we ain't picking those stinking Cowboys, pal.
Interesting weekend, Bill, including the Eagles beat down at the hands of the Cowboys. That Vikings thrilling 3-0 win over the Raiders. That was exciting. And the Giants knocking off the Packers Monday night. With all of that, Bill, you were 2-2. Boop was very rough, 1-3. I was 3-1 because, yeah, I did pick the Cowboys, and I guess that at least paid off here. It hurt me to do it. But
and you say that like you're happy about it.
Well, you know why? Because I'm in first place now, Bill. I'm 39-19.
You can be in if I were to lose this thing by one game and that was the game, I'd just soon lose.
I'm 39.
I ain't picking those stinking Cowboys.
Boop is 2 back. You are 4 back, Bill. And there are just 4 weeks left in the regular season.
Still plenty of time.
Yeah.
We got to remember, Chet, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, we're getting close to the end, pal.
I hear you. Okay. Week 15, here we go. We've added Denver at Detroit Saturday night. The Lions are -5. Who do you like in this game? Denver. How about Denver? They were terrible at the beginning of the year. They're playing pretty good ball. Detroit
Gave
got
up
beat.
70 points to the Dolphins, for God's sake.
Yeah, and Detroit coming off a loss.
Are we picking that game right now?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to? I hold the Boop notes, which I have not looked at, as always. Boop says, could be a trap game for Detroit with the Vikings on the slate 2 times over the final 3 weeks, but the talent wins out here. Lions. They're not playing great, but they're at home. They kind of, want to get back on track. I'm taking Detroit also. Bill?
Yeah, I'm taking Detroit also. They are at home, and I really like Dan Campbell, and I think he's going to have them ready to play, especially coming off the loss. And they need to get ready because it's not too far off. They got to play one of the big boys.
Yeah.
I believe, right? All right, Giants. Cowboys. The Giants travel to New Orleans on Sunday. The Saints are -6. Giants playing better. Still the Giants.
Boop says, we have been backing New Orleans all season to win the Norris division. I mean the NFC South. I see what he did there. Yeah. He's taking the Saints. Tommy DeVito has won, 3 in a row? I'm not climbing aboard the Jersey DeVito train. I just can't do it. I'm taking New Orleans also.
I'm taking New Orleans as well. I think they're going to win this game handily.
Okay.
The Commanders visit the Rams. The Rams are -6.5. What Commander team do you think will show up? Matter of fact, what Rams team do you think will show
up? Washington has been pinballing around the country. Denver, Atlanta, Seattle, Dallas, LA. Another loss notch for the Samsonite. He's taking the Rams. I'm taking the Rams too. Washington
taking the Rams. We're not going to gain any ground down here, Bill, if we all keep picking the same.
Yeah.
All right. Dallas travels to Buffalo. The Bills are -2.5. I know you're all over that Cowboy bandwagon, as you proved last week. Who you got this week?
Boop says Dallas hasn't beaten a good team on the road yet this season.
Good clarification.
Yeah. He's taking the Bills. I am also taking the Bills. I think the Bills are a more desperate team. The Cowboys are feeling a little high about themselves after beating up our Eagles. I'm taking the Bills.
Yeah, and I'm taking the Bills too. And I hate to say, Joe knows you. I can see he knows you. I'm taking the Bills. Every week is desperation for the Bills. They can't really lose. They played really well against Kansas City. What a funny game that ended up being. We could talk about that if we have a minute. But I'm going Bills as well, which gets us to Monday Night Football. The Eagles travel across the country to play Seattle. Eagles -4. Chet, you might say that this is a must-win for the Birds, even at 10-3.
Oh, I think it is. I mean, just after the way they lost the last 2 games, I think they do need it. They can still certainly win the division even with a loss, because I think Dallas is going to lose 1 or 2. But let's see. Boop says the margin of victory in this series has been double digits in 11 of the 19 meetings, with 7 of them at 17 plus. Wow. Boop says expect another. Take the Eagles. I'm doing that. I'm already taking the Eagles. I don't think it's going to be a double-digit win, but I think the Eagles will do enough to win. I'm taking our Birds over their Birds.
I am taking the Eagles just because I think, and I thought they would come out and play well against Dallas. That didn't necessarily happen. 3 fumbles lost and 10 penalties usually doesn't bode well for you. All right. So that gives us.
I predict I'm going to still have a 2-game lead next week when we talk about this, since we all made the same picks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's not going to help me anyway. Oh, now here, let's see what Paul's got to say. He's got a comment in here. Cowboys are going to lose versus the Bills. Chet is
Paul,
off.
I was never on the Cowboys wagon, okay? Don't ever put me on that wagon. I would shoot myself. I just thought that they probably would beat the Eagles. Don't put me on the Cowboys bandwagon, pal. Not happening.
Margin of victory picks for the week. Who we have? What's our standings?
There's the standings. Like the Eagles, I'm in a little slump, Bill. I've lost 2 out of 3 after starting the year 11-0. The Eagles started 10-1 and lost 2 in a row. I started 11-0 and I've lost 2 out of 3. So that should say, 12-2 is correct. Bill, you're at 10-4. Boop is 7-7 and just trying to pick one game. Come on, Boop. You guys are battling it out for second place. I think I've pretty much clinched the top spot, but it is getting tougher. Let's see what Boop has to say. Boop says, he's picking the Eagles this week. I am taking, I haven't taken the Eagles yet this week. I'm going to save them for one of the following weeks. I am taking New Orleans to beat the Giants this weekend as my margin of victory pick.
Put that screen back up there, will you? Because I took New Orleans too.
You can. That's okay. You're not going to gain any.
It's not going to help me anyway. I had a backup team, so I just got to be sure I didn't use them. I'm going to take the Rams. The Rams over the Commanders. I am going to take the Rams there.
That's probably a safe pick.
I did have the Saints over the Giants as my number one, but while Brad was on, I looked at the schedule again and came up with a backup plan just in case. So I'm going Rams over Washington.
All right. I already used the Rams, so I can't take them.
Well, that's what I had to check to be sure I hadn't, and I haven't.
You got the Rams. All right.
All right. Okay, let's move on. Another great guest, or two great guests tonight, Paul Domowitch and Brad Huebner. Who's coming to Philly Pressbox Radio next week, Chet?
Well, Bill, next week we have one of our favorite guests. We have him on every year right about this time, pre-Christmas week. And that is Arkansas Fred, old number 86. Fred Barnett, the former Eagle. He joins us pretty much every December. I think this is his 9th year doing it. So Arkansas Fred will be joining the show next week to talk all things Eagles. And remember, the Eagles have a Monday night game, so we will have Fred's reaction to that next week on the big show. Just one guest next week, Bill, so you and I can do more fun stuff. Maybe we'll talk Hall of Fame stuff, right?
Yep, football and baseball. The ballots are out. We never talked about the Baseball Hall of Fame. When it came out, we'll hit that, and we'll also hit the Football Hall of Fame as well.
And I think I'm going to squeeze a random chat next week. A little Christmas edition random chat for the folks.
Oh, there you go. We'll probably get that ugly sweater thing floating around as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we have to talk Flyers.
They're hot.
Have won 4 of their last 5. I don't know that they're hot anymore. They're playing good hockey straight on through. Just 28 games in this season, so there's a long way to go. But you have to be impressed with what we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, they were just on the road. They got 5 out of a possible 6 points. Tough loss in overtime last night, but I mean, they're certainly doing way better than everybody expected. They're battling for a playoff spot, which nobody expected. So you got to be pleased. I mean, the one real problem, the power play still stinks.
That it does. They score more goals on the PK than they do on the PP.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah, that's unusual.
But hey, it's good to be in this position, even at this early stage of the season. You never know what can happen here, and I'm going to say playoff hockey back in Philly would be a really fun thing.
It would. I'm glad they're not tanking. I know you are as well. Yeah. So go Flyers. Make it interesting. I don't care if they get a top 5 draft pick. It doesn't matter. Play well. Keep going.
All right, I got to throw this out here because Pat is losing his mind. The roof is falling in. The sky is falling in. It's not falling in, Pat. You sound like a crazy Eagles fan. Everything is going to be okay. We'll talk about this Monday night, Tuesday. We'll talk about it in 4 weeks, and everything is going to be A-okay. Don't panic. It's all good.
Hey, before we go and wrap things up, we heard today the Phillies are having a meeting with that Japanese pitcher, Yamamoto. I don't know how serious he might be interested in coming to Philadelphia, but hey, talk to him, convince him, bring him to town. Why not? And remember Carson Wentz's backup at North Dakota State, Easton Stick? Yep. He is starting for the Chargers Thursday night now that Herbert is out for the season. So Easton Stick making his first NFL start for the LA Chargers.
There you go. Hey, Chet, you got a request? Paul needs
I think
top 10 Christmas movies. You've done that
I
before.
think I did that 2 years ago, but you know what? For you, Paul, I'll rehash that next week. How's that?
Dust it off. What do you think?
All right. You
All
got
right,
it. Next
sounds
week,
good.
Paul.
Hey, let's give what do we want? What kind of word do we want to use to bless Ohtani for his 10-year, $700 million contract? We could talk all night about that nonsense. $10,000 on StubHub for opening game Ohtani tickets in LA. $10,000, and you know what, Chet? You spend $10,000, you get to go by yourself because you need another 10 to take a friend or your wife.
And how about what he's doing with the contract? $2 million a year, and then $680 million at the end of the 10 years. Wow!
Right?
Wrap it up, Bill.
And by the way, he's got Tommy John, and he may never pitch again, and blah blah blah.
He's going to be a DH primarily next year, and he's getting a whole lot of money. Bill, I'm hungry. Let's wrap it up.
Let's go. Let's wrap this thing up. Thank tonight's special guests, Paul Domowitch and Brad Huebner. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates, PPCC 118 Raz Room, and Dave Lavoie of Allstate Insurance in Westchester, PA. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, December 20th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook and on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel. Listen on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and let's go Birds.
And now, folks, that's it. Good night to all of you, and good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.